Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera.
This episode is sponsored by DocSites, the trusted website and marketing company for dental practices. DocSites builds personalized, affordable websites with no long-term contracts. Visit docsites.com and use code POD25 to receive a $75 Amazon gift card on booking a demo. We'd also like to thank our next sponsor, All Practice Solutions, your trusted source for CBCTs, sensors, dental chairs, and other dental equipment. Use code POD25 for a free handheld X-ray generator with any CBCT or purchases over $5,000. Text ROD at 630-440-0600.
In this episode,
welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spera. Today my guest, Dr. Stephanie Mapp. And if you know anything about Dr. Mapp or Stephanie, she tells it like it is. And she has had way more experiences than the average person in our profession. And she is more than willing to share, expose her vulnerabilities, her mistakes, most of which she'll readily admit, and freely she's made them. And I'm not sure there's too many that she hasn't made. But what she's learned from it, she has created a wonderful thing. She's currently helping out people in a consulting company, Mapp Your Practice. You can reach her at Dr. Mapp, D-R-M-A-P-P, at Mapp Your Practice, M-A-P-P, yourpractice.com. She's wonderful. You can find her on Facebook and online, Stephanie Mapp. She's just a peach and just a joy to speak to. I think you're going to love this episode. If you do like it, please click, share it. Share it with your friends, subscribe, do all those nice things that help us grow this audience and reach out to more people and hopefully impact and affect and improve their dental careers and their dental lives. That's probably my biggest goal. It's the only reason why I'm here, is can we help at least one person? That's our mission and goal. Now, if you don't like it or you're not happy with what you hear, please reach out to me. It's sonnyspera@gmail.com. You can call me at my cell phone, 607-624-2962. Call me, text me, whatever you want to do, you can reach me. If you want to be on the show, if you've got some information you want to share, or you just want to tell your story in dentistry, we'd love to hear it. It's so inspirational to hear so many great stories, so many great docs. Also, on a personal note, we're looking for a doc to join our practice. We're a 5-office, fee-for-service, independent dental group, and we run it as though it's one organization. We have multiple different ownership possibilities. We have a couple docs that are going to start to slow themselves down, so we really could use it to meet the demand and to meet the needs of some of the openings that we're going to be creating. You'll do great. It's a wonderful way of life in upstate New York. You got my number, you have my cell, reach out anytime. Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate you all. Thank you.
the 5 essential do's and don'ts for successful dental practices with Dr. Stephanie Mapp. A discussion with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spera. Today, my extra special guest, Dr. Stephanie Mapp. If you're alive and in dentistry and you are not living under a rock for the last 30 years, you'll know who she is, because she has typically very honest, forthright opinions on a lot of dental forums, and I absolutely love her for it. I've been chasing her probably for 3 or 5 years to get her on the podcast. We stalked her enough that we finally got her set up. Very excited. We just had a very nice chat. Can't wait. Let me give you her background. I can't wait to get into it with her. Dr. Stephanie Mapp has over 30 years of dental experience. She attended the University of Florida College of Dentistry after only 3 years of undergrad education in the psychology department. She's worked in many types of dental practices, representing all ranges of socioeconomic backgrounds, from public health to the boutique fee-for-service practices. That's pretty much from A to Z, if you ask me. Her experience presented her with exposure to many different management systems, right? Many different types. She's had 9 associate positions. She's herself has hired 5 associates. Talk about knowing both sides of the coin. Did a startup and purchased a practice. I'm not sure there's much more that you need to really tap on that you can't say that she's done it all. She enjoys sharing the pitfalls of private practice and save other dentists from excessive stress. She appeared as a guest on several podcasts, including The Practice Fixers, Behind the Smiles, Mommy Dentists in Business, and Shared Practices. She has contributed to 2 books, appeared on many podcasts, and lectures nationally on how to have a more profitable practice. So I'm hoping this is the first of many conversations we have because I think she has so much to offer all of us. She lives in Florida with her son, 3 dogs, and her doctor fiance. Ooh, maybe we could talk about the pit. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I just watched the first episode this week.
Oh, you're not going to want to shut it off, but you're not going to go to sleep afterwards. Like you're going to be wound up and wired. I was hooked on it from the get-go. Let's see. Most of her time away from the office is spent traveling the globe. She recently was just in my neck of the woods, which was really cool. Upstate New York, and she loved Watkins Glen and the beautiful Finger Lakes. Tell me, folks, it's not everything in New York is New York City, just to put it out there. She retired from clinical dentistry in 2023 to focus on her consulting company, Mapp Your Practice, Mapp with 2 P's, which helps new and existing owners set up systems for dealing with PPO insurance in their dental practices, as well as transitioning to a fee-for-service practice model. And boy, can a lot of people use that. And we're starting to see more people seriously go into that, which I think is great. Contact her, hit her up. Dr. Mapp, her email is drmapp, M-A-P-P, at Mapp, M-A-P-P, yourpractice.com. Stephanie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. I love sharing my message, my brutal honesty. I love discussing things. I call them the dirty little secrets that people don't like to talk about in dentistry, because it's easy for anybody who's knocked it out of the ballpark to put that out there on social media.
Yeah.
It's the guys that are struggling behind the scenes that they're afraid to speak up and they're afraid to ask questions.
And they're also, if you look at a typical Facebook post and someone's asking an opinion, and the first 20 posts are all giving the same opinion, and you have a different frame of mind, a lot of times they won't say it because there's that mob or group mentality thought, right? Knowing from your psychology background, I'm sure you know this, that I don't want to be the only one that dissents here, so I'll just click or move on. But it's refreshing sometimes to hear that other voice to say exactly what they mean and mean what they say, which I know you do, and I love you for it. So
yeah, I call myself the Don Quixote of the dental world. If you don't know Don Quixote, you might have to research that.
Who dreams the impossible dream.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, our topic tonight is going to be the 5 do's and don'ts of private practice, but with her experiences, let's get into it a little bit. So you went to the University of Florida for both undergrad and grad.
Yes, I fell into dentistry as an accident. I was one of those annoying patients that picked up the phone, and I called dental offices. When I was an undergrad, I was making $3.35 an hour working at the university bookstore. I was back in the days of DOS. Anybody that knows about computers knows
MS
what DOS
DOS.
is.
Uh-huh.
So I'm dating myself, but I worked in the campus bookstore in the payment of when the textbooks for the whole university came in. University of Florida had to pay for those. So I was working the DOS systems in the attic of the bookstore. So that dates me, but $3.35 an hour, which is where I came up with the realization that was minimum wage at the time. I knew I needed some dental work. And I was calling dental offices saying, how much is this? How much is that? I was one of those annoying patients because I at $3.35 an hour, there was no way I was walking through the door of any private dental practice at the time. So I found out the University of Florida had a dental clinic with the students. And at the time, a cleaning was $19. So I had to work several hours just to pay for a cleaning. And also $19 at the time was if you proved yourself to be below a certain income. I was getting the lowest price cleaning there was at the university.
So they had a sliding fee scale. Really? Wow. Okay.
Yep, it was a sliding fee
That's
scale,
interesting.
which is why I've always said people will find a way to pay for their dental work regardless of their income, because I found a way.
Okay.
So that's how I became a dentist. I was in my second year of undergrad. I had a student dentist that happened to be a female, and I was looking around in the operatory and I said, this looks like something that I could possibly do. I took the DAT. I had never even had biochemistry, or I did not have organic chemistry when I took the DAT. And I applied to UF Dental on a whim, thinking I'll just do it for the experience. And I got in.
What years did you go to dental school?
I was there from 90 to 94.
Okay, so you're 5 years after me. So just so people can really relate to this, when you went to dental school as a patient, right, your second year, I was a second year dental student.
Yeah.
So the relative amount of female dentists at that time, if the class had 80 students, there was probably 15 to 18 female dental students. Now that number is almost 60% women compared to men. So it's a huge change in these 35 to 40 years of dentistry. So just the fact that you saw female dentists, that's a big difference. And had you ever seen a female dentist when you were a child growing up? Probably not,
Never,
right?
never. It didn't even cross my mind to go.
Unheard of.
I never thought I would be a dentist. I was in the psychology department because my dad was a psychologist.
Sure.
And my dad always wanted me to go to med school.
Okay.
But when I started undergrad, I realized I don't want to go to school for 8 more years after undergrad, because really by the time you do med school and residency, you're looking at a lot more years. And so when this just fell in my lap, I was like, heck, I'll just apply. The only school I applied to, I didn't really stress over it because I didn't expect to get in.
But you also cut short your undergrad a year, so that saves you a few dollars, right? So you're
Save me a few bucks. I tell people all the time, I graduated with $105,000 in debt.
and back then though, that was still a pretty good dollar.
It's a lot of money for somebody that made $3.35.
Let's not negate that, because that you just do inflation. You say from 1994, you said, right? So you're graduating 94, and what does $120,000 look like today? That's a big number.
It actually, I have done that math, and they are significantly higher in debt as a percentage versus wages. So if you're looking at what they're earning, the earnings have actually flattened out, whereas the tuition has increased exponentially.
I hear you. Okay, so you're in dental school, right? Do you feel that you're not worthy, or do you feel that you're up against the brainiacs and you got to work extra hard? What's your makeup at that point? Because it sounds, since it's fell in your lap, either you're afraid and nervous you're not going to make it, or you're out of fish out of water, or you're like, I got this. What was your feeling?
Without trying to sound like obnoxious, I had graduated my high school as valedictorian. And I actually started out one semester at Ole Miss on a scholarship and didn't like Ole Miss and transferred to UF.
Okay.
And I had pretty much spent the first part of my life up to that point trying for perfection. So when I got into dental school, I actually had this horrible thought process of, I just need to learn the most important things, and then I need to have fun for 4 more years because I want to have fun before I get into the reality life. So I was not competing to be first in my class. I was competing to beat the last bottom third of my class. I was like, if I'm just in the middle, I'm good because I have the same degree they do.
Yeah, you know the old joke, right? You know what they call the person who graduates last in their dental class?
Doctor.
Doctor, yeah.
Yeah, so that was me. That was my mindset.
Okay, so you're in dental school, you graduate. At what point do you start looking for jobs or interviewing? What's your process for your next step is what I want to ask you.
Okay, so I will admit I was 100% clueless. We got 2 weeks of
Practice
real business experience, 2 weeks of only morning classes for 2 weeks, and nothing about
terrible. Yeah.
Nothing about anything related to actually private practice, nothing. I followed a guy I was dating because he was at UF Law School, and he worked over in the Panhandle in Panama City. Law school's 3 years, dental school's 4 years. So he had gotten a job in the Panhandle working as an attorney. And I just took the first job I was offered because it was in Panama City, and it was 40 grand salary my first year out of school. 40 grand is what I made.
Mine was 30, but so you went. So geographically, Panama City is in the Panhandle. Is it near Pensacola? Okay. All right. So you're following this fella, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, was it print media? How did you find that opportunity? Or did you make calls? What did you do?
It was in the back of the ADA.
ADA, there you
As
go.
a
Yeah.
student, you got
Yes.
access to the ADA, and it was in the back of the ADA magazine. I only stayed at that job 1 year.
Okay.
I will tell you what I called the job. I called it the lead line. And the reason I called it the lead line is when I went to dental school, posterior composites were still being studied. They were not standard. And so I got a job doing almost all day long. I was doing posterior class twos, and I had 2 columns of posterior class twos. I did do some composites because the dentist I work for, he had taken some posterior composite courses. So I did do some of those. But when you spend an entire year in 2 columns doing nothing but posterior, I did 1 bridge, I did 1 crown my entire first year.
But you placed a lot of amalgams, what you're saying, right?
Amalgams and posterior composites is almost exclusively what I did, and hygiene checks.
Okay. Now, what about the business part of that? What was the contract like? Did you sign a contract? What did you learn from that experience other than this is a rough schedule to do this every single day, but what else did you learn?
I didn't even think of it as a rough schedule because I didn't know any different, but I thought it was boring because I'm like, I learned all this other stuff, but I'm not allowed to do this because the owner took all the better,
So
even
no
my
endos,
treatment plan.
none of that, right?
Right. I didn't get to keep the good stuff. He was doing all the crown and bridge and all the big stuff. And
So you're not really developing relationships with patients then, right? You're just really just literally a day worker.
I'm the filling lady, and it was his manner. I will say he was a brilliant businessman. I observed a lot of what made him a good businessman, but he was a horrible boss because the girls would be nauseous. We would have these awful meetings every Thursday, and the girls would come in vomiting and just crazy. And so I learned what he did well, which was how he scheduled. And
Sure.
there were a lot of things he did well, but what he did poorly was the way he treated people. He was one of those people that threw things and just
Okay.
very scary.
So a little temperamental. Okay, so that's a year because you said you had 9 different associate positions. So what's the next step for you? You're there a year.
So after that, I determined I was going to chase the money.
Okay.
So from that point, I took my ADA, again, go back to the ADA, looking for jobs.
Yep.
And you look in the back of the Florida section, and every year, pretty much from that point until I owned a practice, I was finding a better paying job. Now, what I think is very unusual now that was not really in existence when I was that age was there were not a ton of jobs where you were only paid on your production or your collection. I don't know when this really came about. I did not have a job like that until I was in dentistry 6 years. And the only reason I didn't take a job without a daily guarantee after 6 years is I was hired to just do crown and bridge. So 6 years in, I had a solid salary for 6 years, but I kept moving to a better paying salary. Sometimes I would be doing part-time health department, part-time fee for service, but I was guaranteed every day to get a paycheck. After I was in 6 years in, this opportunity came along. Somebody I knew worked part-time at this practice where the owner hired people just to do crown and bridge. And that's the only job I ever took where it wasn't a guarantee.
Okay. What did you learn in the course of this 6-year period that you now pass along to your clients?
I'll give you an example. I worked for 2 different guys that had gone to Emory Dental School. And one of them was very proactive, stayed really up on the modern stuff. And the other guy, I would go in and my heart would sink because he would not let me diagnose perio. Like, how can you have the same license of me and tell me I can't diagnose perio? And his philosophy was, if you tell somebody they need SRP, they're going to leave your office and they're not going to come back. And I was bothered by that because his same classmate that I worked for up the road about 15 minutes, that guy was doing quadrants of perio in a lower socioeconomic bracket. So I'm like, okay, since I've seen all the different types of socioeconomic brackets, I did public health, I did blue collar, inner city, you name it. I saw all of it, but I was like, the dentist that is still presenting the best standard of care to me was doing a better service, even though his patients were still low on the socioeconomic ladder, but he was still giving those patients the opportunity to choose ideal care.
To choose. That's
Yeah.
so important how you just phrase that. He was giving his patients the opportunity to choose.
Exactly.
Whereas I guarantee the other guy had already made that decision for them and determined that wasn't going to be something that he wanted them to spend their money on, or he felt that he would just have the resistance. And that's just wrong.
Time for a quick sponsor break, back in 30 seconds. This episode is sponsored by DocSites, the trusted website and marketing company for dental practices. DocSites builds personalized, affordable websites with no long-term contracts. Visit DocSites.com and use code POD25 to receive a $75 Amazon gift card on booking a demo. We'd also like to thank our next sponsor, Dentist Job Connect, the premier platform that connects practice owners with top associate dentists. Make hiring and job hunting simple and effective. Visit dentistjobconnect.com and use code POD25 for $500 off the Elite Practice Package.
So along this way, some of the business practices have to be unique and different because you've worked in so many different fields. What were you starting to formulate for yourself, and when did you do your own thing?
So I was almost 7 years in, and I had an argument with my owner, the guy that wouldn't diagnose perio. He wanted me to do a crown on a tooth that had an insufficient ferrule. And I said to him, I'm not going to do this crown. There's not enough ferrule on this tooth. And he looked at me like I had 12 eyes. And I said, do you even know what the ferrule rule is? And you have to think about it. Here's my boss. He probably thinks I'm being a jackass because I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, but you're not when you're out of school yet either.
No, that's true. But also he wanted me to write my notes in pencil that I had said to the patient that there was not enough tooth to restore. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Not only are you not diagnosing perio, but you're wanting me to restore teeth that cannot be restored. There is no ferrule here.
Yeah, but also the fact that he wants you to write in pencil questions whether or not ethically he's changing your notes.
Exactly. And so though all of those red flags said to me,
yeah.
I was like, I can't stay here. This is just wrong.
Yeah,
my
ears shot up when you said that. Like,
I didn't mention that he had a guy that would come in once in a while and do endo, and the guy would cut the fingers out of his gloves and do the endo with the fingers cut out of his gloves and touch the patient with his bare fingers. This guy was working there, and I was like, okay, all of this is adding up to no bueno.
Okay. You quit, he fired you, you end that relationship.
I did not quit, actually. I decided to open an office and still work there to pay my bills.
Okay, so you kept
while I did my start. I did a startup. I was the sixth dentist. I was the sixth dentist in this zip code. Now there are more than 26. I think now there's 27 offices in my zip code. So I am now living in a saturated area that was not saturated when I did my startup. But
the population had to grow, right? The population had to be growing.
It was a big growing area. I started out though as fee for service as a startup.
So you did a startup fee for service. What were some of the biggest challenges you felt you had then?
I had zero challenges. That's the sad part. I worked part-time with this other guy until I could pay my own bills. I had no debt other than I owned a house and I had a student loan. That was it. So I tell people all the time, if you think you're going to go do a startup, you better get your debt under control. You need a rent and your student loan. You can drive a beater car. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking you're going to live the high life and do a startup, that's not going to work.
Attention to the Joneses.
Yeah, I grew very quickly. I was $1 million practice. And now remember, this is back in, I opened my practice in 2002. It was doing over $100,000 in collections within 4 years.
100,000 a month, you mean?
Yep.
So you started, do you remember what that looked like when you opened it up? What were some challenges that you ran into? Was it leasehold? Was it the building? What were challenges that people will face doing startups, even
So
today?
I'll tell you, to me, the biggest mistake most offices do with startups is they spend too much in the beginning. I only outfitted 2 ops, and I actually made a mistake even within my first 2 ops that I fixed later on when I did multiple expansions and things like that, which was I 100% don't agree with buying any dental cabinetry. It's the
Same
biggest
here.
waste of money.
Same here.
Such a big waste of money. You can get 50, you can pay 30 to 50% on custom cabinets and they will look better and they will function better than dental cabinetry. So that was my only mistake I made in my first 4 years.
So you bought like the showroom model, right? You said, "Oh, I'm going to have all these things."
I didn't do ADEC. I know that's the gold standard. I was not going to spend that much. I did bare bones startup. What I spent my money on was high quality waiting room. And when I say high quality, I mean, it looks like you went into a nice home. It doesn't mean I bought marble and granite, but I said my waiting room needs to look pretty and I will buy decent. I'm not going to go bargain basement equipment, but I'm also not going ADEC. I bought 2 operatories. I did all my own marketing by hand, and I did not pay myself a salary till the second year I worked as an associate. And when I paid myself a salary the second year, I put myself on a hygienist salary. I put all my money back into the practice, and that's why I was doing 100,000 a month within 4 years.
Did you pay down your debt too, or what did you do with your debt?
I did not pay down my debt.
Okay.
This is where I transition into my big mistake.
Talk about a segue. I don't even know there's even a question I have to ask there. Tell us about your big mistake.
Okay, so by 2006, I had nowhere to put emergencies. And remember, I was fee for service.
How
Nowhere
many
to
rooms did you have?
4.
You had 4 now, right? And how many hygienists?
2.
Yeah, there you go. You're only working out of 2. You need at least 3, if not 4. But go ahead.
Nowhere for emergencies. The space next to me came up. I leased it. I doubled my square footage. And what else doubled? All my expenses. So it worked out great because the first few months of 2007, I was up 110, 115,000 a month. So now I'm able to make these payments for this stuff that happened. Yeah. And then what do you think hit? The recession.
Yeah, 2008, the timing of it, 2008.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And so I went from collecting 110, 115 a month to 60.
Oh, that's almost half. Oh.
And remember, I had doubled all my expenses. And here's where I tell people this is where I made the mistake. If I had forced myself to save 25 to 30% of what it would cost to expand, if I had saved that in the bank, I would have had that in the bank when the recession hit. So I tell people all the time, and it's not just because of my mistake, but because I'm the one that's on the other end of the phone when these other offices are doing this. They expand, they build a building, and they can't pay their bills.
Yeah, OPM, they're using other people's money.
Yeah, and so I tell people, do not do that.
So the discipline is, right? The lesson is, the discipline is, as you're doing whatever you're doing, just like if you're putting away for retirement, put away for future, because you know that with 3 or 4 ops, with 2 hygienists, that's not going to cut it. So you need to start putting money into a slush fund or a new building fund or an expansion fund and paying yourself. Just like people that have car payments, right? You get rid of the car payment, but start putting that away so that you can get your next car without having to go into debt for it. It's a forced discipline that a lot of people just don't have.
Ironically, I was saving very well for retirement, but I went through all of that savings to keep my office from going under. I was ending up paying all those penalties to pull.
And all the penalties. Yeah, people don't, there's penalties taking that money.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a disaster.
So what did you do? What ended up happening?
I signed up for 13 PPO plans.
So you went from this really nice boutique fee-for-service practice, busier in a bonnet, to now you're in every plan under the sun, right?
Yeah, and I found out the hard way that was dumb.
Yeah, because now you're working twice as hard and you're making probably less than you were making on the other side.
Exactly. I had more team members, more hygiene. I was running 3 columns of 45-minute hygiene appointments, and I had an associate, and I had 3 front desk, 3 assistants. It was like I jumped onto a hamster wheel.
Yeah, that's just a loose. the quote economies of scale and all that stuff where you make it up by volume. It's just not going to happen. I'm a firm believer in that. So let's get down to it. So now you talked about the 5 do's and the 5 don'ts, right? Let's hit on those. Talk about some of the things that you think are essential to having that have that successful practice. 5 do's.
Okay, so the 5 do's, here's how I break it down. First of all, you need to understand every job that's going on under your roof. This is one thing I think I did well at the
Just
beginning.
like a McDonald's, by the way. You can't buy a McDonald's unless you've worked every position. But anyway,
right. And so I learned, because a lot of dentists now, they do a startup and they want to hire one front desk and one assistant. I do not agree with that at all. You need one assistant, and you need to know how to do, you and the assistant need to both know how to do the front desk. Because if you start out with one assistant and yourself, the 2 of you can do everything the front desk needs to do. And people are like, oh, who's going to answer the phone? I said, first of all, nowadays, you can walk around with a phone attached to your ear. And second of all, there's online scheduling. And third, you're not going to be so busy that you're seeing so many patients when you first open. That assistant needs to be tied to the front desk. So if you know how to submit claims, if you know how to do all the reports, if you know how do you balance your books at the end of the day, how do you make sure nobody's stealing from you, if you know how to do every job in the practice, you're never going to be tied to being stuck, not knowing how to function if somebody doesn't show up for work.
yeah, you've removed your handcuffs.
Exactly. My second thing is to know your KPIs. So I had to understand, I knew when I opened my practice, I had to be collecting $25,000 a month in order to pay all my bills, because you have your rent, you've got your bank loan,
Yeah,
you've
just
got
keep the lights on. 25 grand a month.
Right, 25 grand. And I said to myself, when I hit 25 grand a month collections, that's when I'll start paying myself. And so that's when I put myself on a hygienist salary, but I was still putting anything above that back into the practice. So I started out with the right discipline where I'm like, okay, I'm going to save enough to pay for the next operatory, and then I'm going to save enough to pay for the next operatory. And so by doing that, I kept myself out of trouble and managed my funds very well. I always kept 1 month liquid so that if I had a slow month, I could still make the payroll the next month. Obviously, nowadays, you want to keep 3 months liquid if you can. But back then, I didn't have 3 months liquid. I was spending everything past 1 month back into the practice. And the third big do that I didn't learn until after I had 13 insurance plans is you do need to know when you sign on the dotted line, what are you getting paid? Every single week I talk to a dentist when I say, what's your highest paying prophy fee and what is your lowest paying prophy fee? What's your highest paying crown fee and what is your lowest paying crown fee?
They don't know.
They cannot answer that. Now, I was one of those people. I just signed. I said, I need patience. I need patience.
You needed asses and seats, right? Everybody says it. Yeah, yes, ass and seat. And then you think, oh, I'm busy again.
Yeah, exactly. And
sometimes you're better off them not showing up.
So it was by 2010, I realized I'm on this hamster wheel. I've got this practice. I don't know how to rein it in. So I did this really genius thing. And I bought a fee-for-service practice 45 minutes from my existing practice, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work part-time at this fee-for-service practice. This is going to be my retirement practice. My PPO practice is going to have the associate model. And
you're trying to do 2. You're trying to run 2.
I learned the hard way. Number one, I am not meant to be an owner of multiple practices. Even if I had knocked both of them out of the ballpark, the time it took away from my family and friends, it was just not worth it.
Now, when you did this, let's dive into this just a little bit more. Did you have your first practice under control, or was your first practice struggling a little bit?
It was still a hot mess because I didn't know what I was doing. Again,
that makes it even worse.
Yeah, because I couldn't have told you what if you said, how much are you getting for a crown? I don't know. Yeah,
so all you did was double your headaches and you didn't double your pleasure. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't.
No, I made my life worse.
Yeah. Exponentially though, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time. It's like people say that 3 kids is harder than 2 exponentially. 2 practices is harder than 1 exponentially.
Right. It's not just double. You don't understand because you're taking away from one So let's say your one practice is doing really well. Like David Yang is a perfect example. His practice is doing great, and then he decides to do some second one, and that one's struggling. Now you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And you think about the one practice, but you're forgetting about your primary practice. And if you don't feed and nurture it and take care of it, just like your family, your kids, you're not around to do X, Y, Z, things are going to happen that you don't want to happen, you
I'm
know?
going to say on the record, I told David Yang this in advance. I just want to go on the record.
No,
I told him.
I remember you making that statement, by the way. And what I did was when he was saying he was going to do it, I gave him a whole bunch of ideas and advice. And then when we talked about it, he was like, I didn't follow your advice. I didn't try this. And it's not like I told you so. It was just ideas because I've been there. We've done this. Now, we fortunately have done it successfully, but it's a little different model. So
I think there's a lot more luck involved than people think. And that's because where the luck comes in is within the associates, because my associates generally could not complete the amount of dentistry that I could do. And also, you have to understand, patients have a loyalty to the owner. And that's the mystery factor that people don't factor in, is people are like, I can't get my associate as busy. And it's, yeah, because all of your patients are loyal to you as the owner.
you hopefully build those relationships in a fee-for-service private practice. So they're not just going to get thrown out the window.
And even within the PPO practice, they couldn't do the volume of work that I could do because I had been public health, I had done DSO, I had done all these different things. So I came into my practice with, my team used to call me the NASCAR dentist because I was very fast. And people seem to think fast is not accurate, which is
Right.
not true. If you're fast and sloppy, that's one thing, but you can be fast and accurate if you learn from first year, second year, third year. By the time you're a 5-year dentist, if you're forced to see the volume that I was forced to see, you become fast.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get back to it. You have one more. You have one more due?
Do have a written budget. You need a written budget. If you do not have a written budget, then you will be doomed.
This is not my lane. This is not my strength. I can tell you that. But I do know that if I want to say, okay, we're only going to spend 30, right, or 40, whatever it is, I always say it really should be 50, but I've already trimmed it because I don't want to spend time going through all the specifics. But anyway, so go ahead. So
yeah, and then the last thing is you should always have 1 year, 3 year, 5-year practice goals, because you can reverse engineer any kind of plan if you know what your goal is.
So don't you think the same though on the personal side? Like practice goals? I think you need that same thing in your personal life.
Yeah. So all of those things are important, but I see way, way too many dentists that don't know their numbers. You probably know, just like I do, Howard Ferrand's dental MBA. I had it on VHS tape.
I borrowed it on VHS tape.
Yeah, I knew from year 3, my 3rd year out of dentistry, I was watching Howard Ferrand's MBA on VHS. And this was 4 years before I became an owner.
Such a refreshing voice, really, truly.
Yeah, what he has done for dentists that were willing to sit through a VHS tape, it's like between him and Gordon Christensen, I became the dentist I am today because of the information those two guys put out.
I cannot agree with you more if I was standing right next to you. Credit and thank the two of them every day for, and even to this point, because I still reach out, talk to both of them, but the amount of information that they give you that is truly unbiased, and they're not being paid for any of it. They just want to see you do well. And I couldn't thank them enough if I had enough time.
I think one of Howard Ferrand's most brilliant statements that he ever said applies now more than ever before, which is, if you can't make money in your location, you need to find a new location. And I think this is one of the biggest problems I see in young dentists. They are just insistent on living in an area where there's one dentist per 600 to 700 people. Yep. And you are going to be eating Campbell's soup for the rest of your life if you stay in this location.
He passed that on. I try to pass that on to the dental students that I talk to. There was a post one time, and this person was talking about they put an office in and a location, and they were just taking a pounding. And I said, there was a comedian back in the late 80s, Sam Kinison. And he had this bit, right, about people starving. And he went over there and he was like, look at you, you live in the sand. you know what? Nothing grows in the sand. You need
Yeah.
to move where the food is, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're saying. Move where the need is, right? But that's not what people are being told. They're being told, go where you want to live where you want to live. Okay. Now, Howard would say, go set up a practice, make a killing, and then you can fly to and from wherever you want to live. Like that was his joke, but it was like so true. It's so much easier, relatively, to go where there's a demand and a need than there is to go and try to create that demand and need.
Time for a quick sponsor break, back in 30 seconds. This episode is sponsored by All Practice Solutions, your trusted source for CBCTs, sensors, dental chairs, and other dental equipment. Use code POD25 for a free handheld X-ray generator with any CBCT or purchases over $5,000. Text ROD at 630-440-0600. We'd also like to thank our next sponsor, Dentist Job Connect, the premier platform that connects practice owners with top associate dentists. Make hiring and job hunting simple and effective. Visit dentistjobconnect.com and use code POD25 for $500 off the Elite Practice Package.
Right.
I mean, you're looking at double to triple the revenue difference. Pay off if you want to, I tell people, think about it as a military thing. You put in so many years and you get your loans paid by the military. You have to give the military back X number of years. The same thing applies if you go to a high need area where you can pay off your loans in 3 to 5 years and then go eat your Campbell's soup in that desirable area, but at least you don't have the debt anymore. You can just live in a little apartment in the Bay Area like everybody else is doing. Everybody's in a shoebox in the Bay Area, and go be one of every dentist for every 600 to 700 patients after you've worked somewhere where you've paid off all your debt.
Yeah, Howard's joke was, you can move in this building and be another vegetable. I remember him specifically telling me that when I went to visit him my second trip, I think. All right. So let's hit up. Is that one of your don'ts? It sure sounds like it, right?
It's a do to go to where you can really make money. It's a don't to stay in a location where you're not making money. It's also a don't to sign up for contracts that don't cover your expenses.
Or that you don't understand what you're signing.
If you're doing a $58 pro fee and a hygiene salary is $65, you're already paying that patient to walk through your door.
Right.
So don't sign up for these plans that are not going to cover your overhead.
Here's the other point that sticks to that, right? You're busy, your schedule's full. So a patient that calls up that's ready to pay $100 for that appointment can't get in because you're full of the $55 patients.
Yeah, I actually
a
do.
huge imbalance.
I do that experiment with teams when I go into practices where we're dropping plans.
Yeah.
The first thing I do is I create a schedule where everybody's paying, all the reimbursements are at the lowest rate. And then we go through the same exact schedule and we go to the next highest paying plan. And I show them, I'm like, look, let's say it's $300 a day difference. And now multiply that time 198 days.
That's simple math. When it comes right down to it, it's just simple math. But people don't know the math because they don't know their numbers. Like you said, they don't understand their numbers.
And it's scarcity mindset, which is actually a psychological issue that's been studied by businesses, which is if you're so focused on losing patients, you're not focused on bringing in the patients that will fill those seats. And losing patients is fine in my book. I'll gladly lose patients if they're not willing to pay what they need to pay to cover my expenses. It's not my job to finance them. If I want to do public health, I'll go sign up for public health.
Yeah, or if I want to do charity, I'll do charity on my call.
I worked with a practice that we got out of their Medicaid, but she picked a handful of Medicaid patients to see 100% free.
That's where we were when we went through that exercise. And we had our staff, our team picked the people they wanted to keep, and we said, we're going to keep 50. And you know what was really interesting? It was almost the exact same people everybody selected.
Yeah, because they deserved it. You knew they deserved it.
And I never, people, and you were happy to do it, right? Okay, keep going. What's
another don't is do not allow team members to hold you hostage. Think about how many complaints on social media, the staff member. I never fired anybody. You know what I did? I invited people to be happier somewhere outside of my office. I would say, today is your last day. I'm inviting you to go find a place where you're going to be happier. Hand in your keys on the way out. I never said the words, you're fired. I just said, today's your last day. This isn't working. I wish you the best. People make it too personal. It's not personal. You're signing somebody's check to do the job. And if they can't do the job, or if you walk in and you feel like it's nails on the chalkboard seeing this person's face, they need to go. What is the whole point of being an owner if you're surrounding yourself with toxic people? Again, goes back to, if you know how to do every job in your practice, you don't need them. There's no reason to keep them.
Very true. And it also helps when you're cross-training too. Like you said, you and your assistant need to understand this.
My assistants were all cross-trained because if we had no front desk, we could still run our practice.
And during COVID too, right? You can eliminate the front desk and you can have everything run, including the checks and collections in the back. And that was when we really started to see we can do this here.
Here's one of the smart things I did. I sold before COVID. I sold my practice. I'm going to tell people, I tell people all the time, it was divine intervention. I feel like a lightning bolt came down in 2018 and told me to sell my practice. I had already closed my fee-for-service practice. Do you know why I closed my fee-for-service practice? It was a landlord dispute. I had it on the market for 2 years. I could not sell it. And finally my lease ran out and I was not willing to renew my lease because of the landlord issues. And so hundreds of thousands of dollars out the window. I went back and I learned all of what I did wrong with both practices. And that was when all of this started evolving into, okay, I know what I did wrong. I know what I need to fix. And so I went back and I fixed my original practice to where I was now on a model with no associates. I only worked 3 to 3.5 days a week and took 5 weeks off a year. So I went from total train wreck to 3 contracts and loving my life until the lightning bolt came down and said, sell your practice.
You were very lucky.
I was lucky. And when I sold, I had no clue that 9 months later, everything was being shut down.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in Florida, right?
Yes.
Florida never shut down, really.
We were shut down for about 6 weeks, not compared to some states.
Oh, yeah, we were shut down for 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just don't think, I think I would have had a heart attack or something if I had been closed for 3 months.
Yeah, we did. We were just very diligent about, we remodeled one office and we completely redid another office. Because we said, we need an assistant pass, we need this, let's turn this chair around. And next thing, okay, we put in new floors. And then we're like, okay, this other office, we've been talking about it, we have the plans, let's just do it. So we demoed what we needed to demo. We had a contractor who was more than happy to do the work. He was tired of sitting around. And so we got that going on that. And it carried over. It didn't get done in time to start, but it was a smart move. And just no better time than then. So what are some other ones? What are some other don'ts?
Though I have 2 more don'ts. One is don't let your patients try to run your practice. And I learned this early, and it was because of the different models I had seen. And so I was fortunate to see the practice where they let the emergency patients dictate everything. And I was fortunate to see the practice where we're going to do an FMX on every patient. We're going to do an FMX and a PAN on every patient. We're not going to let them say they're not going to get their perio treatment done. I learned from other owners, it's like the patients that are willing to listen to you and take your advice are much more pleasant than the ones that march in and try to dictate their care. And if you look at the things most people are complaining about, staff issues, patient issues, insurance issues, the patient issues are way more under your control than you think. And again, going back to Gordon Christensen, one of the events I attended where he was lecturing, I remember him saying in November of every year, I would talk to my team and we would pick out the patients that flew in on their brooms and we would send them the breakup letter.
Yeah.
And
Jack Welch, GE model.
Yeah. And so I got to the point where I empowered my front desk team to gatekeep these people. You don't want full set of x-rays. This isn't the office for you. There's enough there. The way we would word it, there's a lot of great other dentists in our zip code, but we will be doing a full set of x-rays and an exam before you even get to do anything else in our practice. By sticking to those things, you weed out the headache patients. And I will tell people, I put it up on a big screen in my lectures, my 1-star review from kicking out a patient that kept refusing perio treatment. You're still liable. The laws do not favor you keeping your license just because a patient doesn't want to do something. And so my 1-star review that I proudly show on the big screen says they know what they did. And what we did is we weren't going to let him continue in our practice without getting perio treatment. So these are the kind of things, the earlier you learn this stuff, the easier your career will be. My final one, though, is to never once you get to where you can comfortably keep a roof over your head, keep food in your kids' mouths, do not become married to your business. One thing I learned when I had 2 practices, I also was a single mom at this time. So
that's really hard.
Yeah, that added to the mix. I was the one that had to pick my son up. I had to get my son to school, pick him up. I eventually hired somebody to pick him up. But when I look back, it was a 5.5-year period that I owned 2 practices. And I realized if I had just gone back and made my initial practice back to the level of success it was before the recession, I'd have had so much more free time. I wouldn't have missed out on a lot of events that happened over time. I tell people owning a dental office should really be more like a marathon than a sprint. And you will expand your practice abilities if you're not hunched over the chair 5 days a week. I think this is a super hard profession to do 5 days a week. I did 5 days a week a lot of years, but I don't think it's mentally and physically healthy to do it 5 days a week. Some people can make it work, wasn't for me, but also it's the time away. Money will come and go. And once you have the basic things you need, if you miss time with family and friends, you can't get that back.
Yeah, there's that famous saying, there's very few people that towards the end of their life say, I wish I'd spent more time in the office.
Yeah, it's true.
But there's plenty of people that say, I wish I spent more time watching my kids grow up or being there for my kids' games or what have you.
Yeah, and it's a tough balance, especially with what you were saying at the beginning of our discussion about how the majority of women dentists are now graduating dental school. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing when you have to factor in somebody's got to take care of kids. And so.
But the thing is, because I agree with you, but I also think I did a special, I interviewed probably 7 or 8 female dentist owners specifically, because I think with the increase in number of women graduating, I don't want that to be the feeling of that they should not own a practice or they cannot own a practice. There is a way to do it. You have different pressures on you, some societal, some your own personal, some familial, some of your family. What are you doing? What are you doing, Stephanie? You should be doing this. I did this when you were a kid. You're going to have some of that, but being okay with it, but not having to be a super mom. You're just one person. Put yourself, and didn't you learn to give yourself some more priorities of different things, like change the things and how they ranked for you?
Oh, definitely. And again, like I said, I was a single mom for a lot of the time that I had 2 practices. And so you do look back and say, hey, I wish I had more free time when I was working 5 days a week. There just wasn't free time. But that's the beauty of the profession for women. I think that's what draws a lot of women to the profession is the ability to work with your schedule. And I know a ton of successful women business owners. I don't think being a female, I read the other day, the majority of women go into not being owners. That has not been the case from my perspective.
That's the part I want to try to change.
Yeah.
I think if you're in the PE world or the DSO or the corporate world, right, and you can create a better mix for yourself, if you can graduate more graduates who have the mindset that they don't want to own, they don't want to be part of ownership, now you've created a breeding ground for yourself or employees. And I don't think, and if that trend continues, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Independent dental practice, right? We're going to be in a little bit of trouble because we're going to have a shortage of people desiring to own dental practices.
I think where the biggest missing piece is it seems like dental schools are okay with letting these corporations come in and make their.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, they allow this. They open the door for the corporations, but they don't they're not freely opening the door for private owners to come in and say, hey, you guys can do this.
Right. which is why I continue to go to Buffalo, because they continue to allow me and ask me. But you better believe it that the breeding ground for them and what's their lifeblood is young dental graduates who need jobs that are willing to accept whatever is out there. And the problem that I find is the mentality of a lot of the administration in the dental schools is exactly that. You're going to go work for a corporation. You're going to go work for a DSO. This is what you're going to do. They've drank the Kool-Aid. So they're espousing it. And maybe because they didn't do so well on their own. Maybe that's why they're full-time faculty. I don't know, but it's a possibility. But don't put that out there. And that's the gist of my main lecture tool to when I speak to the third-year students. Let's go through some scenarios. Let's go through some situations. Let's do a day schedule. Let's look at this at DSO or PPO pricing, excuse me. And let's look at this at private practice pricing. Can you survive and can you service your debt?
Yeah, it's tough. I will also say that having had so many associate jobs myself and so many associates, I don't think that there's any kind of where do you go to learn both on the hiring side and the person being hired. How do you learn what's fair? I don't know another profession that says, hey, you're gonna come in and take this job with $300,000 to $400,000 of debt, but we're not going to guarantee any patients on your schedule. We're not going to guarantee you at least walk out of the door at the end of the day with the paycheck. I don't know where that evolved from, but it's so prevalent now. And to me, it's a disgrace to the overall profession. Everybody should get a minimum guarantee.
Yeah, or they should at least have a monthly draw and you can look at it, but you should be able to look at it over a period of time. And if you have, because there's a build, right? There's a buildup. So I think taking that pressure off of the person so that they can be who they've been trained to be, right? They can be the doctor that they've been taught. And that's something that we try to do in our practice for sure.
Yeah, people have to be able to at least pay rent and buy some groceries.
Yeah. Okay, super. I was going to ask you for any last, as we wrap up, is there any last messages you want to convey to the docs out there that can use the help?
Never stop learning. If you stop learning, you will be left behind. You really have to keep learning. The field is always changing. If I was starting out today, I would learn how to place implants. I learn how to do 3D dentistry. There's so many exciting things in our profession, and you can't get enough learning.
I couldn't agree with you more. And not only that, it keeps you from being stale. Right? It recharges your batteries. And like I told my people that when I first went into practice and on my own, I went and practiced associate 89. When I went on my own was 91, October 1, 1991. I told my whole team, I said, if I'm practicing and doing the same things the same way, 5 to 10 years from now, you need to take me out, either shoot me, run me over with a truck, but you need to get me out of here because I've given up.
Yeah.
You know? That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I think if I look back on everything I learned in dental school, almost every single aspect of dentistry has changed since I graduated.
As Jeffrey Hu says too, he looks at it, he goes, there's probably 1 to 5% of the things that I do now are something I picked up in dental school. Yeah. I think the basic concepts and principles stay true. What's a cavity? Like, I have a hard time swallowing some of the stuff I see now as it relates to that. But then I also think that the inner core values of how you treat another human being will never change.
I tell all of my offices, if you do what's best for the patient,
yes,
the money will follow.
So every doc that works in my practice, that's the first thing I tell them. Take care of the patient, the money takes care of itself. Yeah. And it's easier to say than done when you're doing okay, but understand that and talk to every single doc that works in our office, that some are owners, some are partners, some are not. If that's been statement holds water, right?
Yep.
It does. Because you can never go wrong if your central focal point was always patient care.
When I go to my grave, I'm going to know that I went to my grave doing what was best for other
100%.
people before I cared about what I was going to get paid.
Chin, head up high, proud. My dad would always say, when you look in the mirror and you shave your face, you want to like what you see, right? You want to be proud of it. And it's just a fact. Hey, I'm not perfect. And the hard things are, like one of your favorite patients, right? God forbid you take a tooth out or something and they get a dry, or something breaks and it worked fine. Those are the hardest pills to swallow because there's nothing you could have done differently, although you think maybe you can. Sometimes bad things happen to really good people. And and there's no right answer. How do you resolve it? And you can be empathetic but sympathetic, but honestly, nobody wants to see this happen. And I think, honestly, if you convey that message clearly, you're going to be okay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So I tell people all the time, there's way more good dentists out there than bad.
100%.
It's a shame that we get such a bad rap in the media.
Yeah. But some of this we're doing to ourselves. I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at some of the forums and Facebook groups, oh my goodness, we'd eat your young, for crying out loud. Just the way we talk to people, it's so unprofessional.
Yeah.
So promise you'll come back because there's so many things that I'd love to talk to you about. I want to get more into the hiring and firing, or the hiring and the liberating, we'll call it.
Fighting them to be happier somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. But just to remind everybody, if you want to reach Dr. Mapp, Dr. Stephanie Mapp, again, her best way to reach her is through an email, Dr. Mapp, DRMAPP, at mappyourpractice, MAPP, yourpractice.com. So, Steph, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate this. This was great.
Maybe I'll run into you up by the Finger Lakes one day.
I hope so. If you're up in this area, please call me. We'll go to dinner. We'll go somewhere.
All right. Good
Okay?
talking to you.
Promise. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode is sponsored by DocSites, the trusted website and marketing company for dental practices. DocSites builds personalized, affordable websites with no long-term contracts. Visit DocSites.com and use code POT25 to receive a $75 Amazon gift card on booking a demo. We'd also like to thank our next sponsor, Dentist Job Connect, the premier platform that connects practice owners with top associate dentists. Make hiring and job hunting simple and effective. Visit dentistjobconnect.com and use code POD25 for $500 off the Elite Practice Package.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.